Hello everyone, welcome once again to the economics class with me, Biraj Chetri, PGT Economics, Kendriya Vidyalay, Badkuhi. Okay, and as you all know, we have been discussing about foreign exchange rate in our previous class, and today also we will carry on with the same chapter, that is foreign exchange rate. And today we are going to discuss about the part 2 of that foreign exchange rate. In first part we have discussed about the various type of foreign exchange rate, that is fixed and flexible exchange rate system, as well as the managed floating exchange rate system. Not only that, we have discussed about the concept of depreciation, appreciation, devaluation and revaluation. Okay, so today we are going to discuss about how this depreciation, appreciation, revaluation and devaluation is going to affect the import and export of domestic goods as well as the import and export of foreign goods. So without making much delay, let us start today's lesson. Okay, first of all, we are going to discuss about the relation between depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency with the export of domestic goods. Okay, as we all know from our previous lesson that depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency is nothing but the reduction or decrease in the value of domestic currency against the foreign currency. Okay, as you can see from the definition itself that depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency occurs when the value of domestic currency decreases against the foreign currency. Here we are not mentioning any exchange rate system because we are dealing with both depreciation and devaluation, since we know that these both terms have the same meaning. The only difference is that depreciation occurs in flexible exchange rate system and devaluation occurs in fixed exchange rate system. Now let us take an example in order to understand the relation between depreciation and export of domestic goods. Okay, let us say that in the initial situation the exchange rate between the domestic and foreign currency is such that $1 is equivalent to 50 rupees. Here dollar, US dollar is the foreign currency and Indian rupees is the domestic currency. So for 1 unit of foreign currency, 50 units of domestic currency is being exchanged. Okay, let us further assume that a US citizen has $100 with him. Okay, now if we are to convert this US dollar into Indian rupees, then we can easily calculate it that since $1 is 50 rupees, then $100 will be 100 multiplied by 50 rupees, so that the value which the US citizen has with him is rupee 5,000. Okay, now further let us assume that India is exporting tea to the US citizen. Okay, or in simple words, India is selling tea to a US citizen and the value of tea is such that its price is given as rupee 500 per kilogram. Okay, now further let us assume that this particular US citizen spends his entire amount, that is rupee 5,000, in purchasing tea from India. Now if he spends his entire amount here, then how much unit of tea or how many kilograms of tea will this particular US citizen be able to purchase? It will be 5,000 divided by 500, that is 10 kg. Okay, thus the US citizen can purchase 10 kg of tea, okay, at this exchange rate and at this price level. At this exchange rate, that is $1 per rupee 50 and rupee 500 per kg is the price of tea. Now let us consider that the depreciation or devaluation has occurred, so that the exchange rate is now $1 is equal to rupee 100. Let me remind you that in current situation the value of $1 is not equal to 50, it is much higher than that, almost 74 rupees per $1 is the prevailing exchange rate, but we have taken 50 as an example here just to simplify the example. Okay, and we have just doubled the exchange rate here just to simplify our example. It may not be the case. Okay, when depreciation takes place, the only condition is that if initial situation is $1 per rupee 50, then after depreciation it has to be more than 50 to be exchanged against $1. It may be rupee 51, 52, 53, 54 or 51.5, 51.2. It can take any value which is just greater than rupee 50. Okay, but we have taken a double value here, rupee 100, just to simplify the example. Okay, now after depreciation, $1 is equal to rupee 100. Okay, and the same situation is here. US citizen has $100 with him. Okay, when we convert it to Indian rupees, it will be 100 multiplied by 100, that is rupee 10,000 with the with the US citizen. Okay, now if he spends his entire money, that is rupee 10,000, to purchase tea which is priced at rupee 500 per kg, okay, then the US citizen will be able to purchase 10,000 divided by 500, that is 20 kg of tea, which is exactly double the quantity of tea which he could have purchased if there would have been no depreciation. Okay. Thus here US citizen can purchase 20 kg of tea. Here if you see, I have taken a very simple example where the value of foreign currency, that is the value of domestic currency, that is Indian rupees, is just depreciating by double the amount. Okay, it is depreciating by double the amount, and it may not be the case in reality. And here we have further assumed that whatever money the US citizen is holding, he is entirely spending on purchasing product from India. But in real world, what may happen is that, as we can see here, since it is rupee 500 per kg, okay, 500 per kg is the price of tea. Initially, when the exchange rate is $1 equals to rupee 50, then in terms of dollar, in terms of US dollar, the price of tea will be $10 per kg. Okay. Now after depreciation, since $1 is 100, so 100 into 5 is 500, so only $5 is to be spent to purchase 1 kilogram of tea. So when we can clearly see that tea has now become relatively cheaper after depreciation. Okay, the price of tea has not decreased, but after depreciation, for the US citizen, the value of tea or the price of tea has become relatively cheaper, because what has happened is the domestic currency's value has depreciated. Okay, so in such a situation, what happens is a foreign citizen may get encouraged, tempted to purchase more of domestic goods because they are getting it relatively cheaper than what was the price earlier. Okay, now the same condition will prevail even in the case of appreciation or revaluation of foreign currency. It is so because the depreciation of domestic currency takes place only when there is appreciation of foreign currency. Okay, or devaluation of domestic currency takes place only when there is revaluation of foreign currency. We can explain this with this example itself. Earlier, $1 was rupee 50. Okay, after depreciation, $1 became rupee 100. That means the value of dollar has increased. For each dollar you were giving rupee 50 earlier, now you are giving 100. It means that obviously the value of dollar has improved. The value of dollar has increased. So whenever we discuss about the relation between depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency with export of domestic goods, then we are also expressing the relation between appreciation or revaluation of foreign currency with export of domestic goods. So from here we draw a conclusion that when there is depreciation, obviously the export will rise. Here it was 10 kg, here it will be 20 kg. In monetary value also, here we have not discussed about monetary value, but in real world, since the domestic goods, since the Indian tea has now become relatively cheaper for the US citizen, therefore a US citizen may prefer to buy more of tea from India, may prefer to purchase more of tea from India, as it has now become relatively cheaper than it was before. Okay, so we can express the relation between depreciation of domestic currency or devaluation of domestic currency with exports in this way. When there is depreciation of domestic currency, the value of domestic currency will fall. Okay, and when the value of domestic currency will fall, it will make the domestic goods relatively cheaper for the foreigners. Okay, domestic goods relatively cheaper for the foreigners, and when it becomes relatively cheaper, then the export of domestic goods will increase. Okay, so what is the relation? When there is depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency, the value of domestic currency is decreasing, and when the value of domestic currency is decreasing or reducing, the domestic goods becomes relatively cheaper for the foreigners, and when domestic goods becomes relatively cheaper for the foreigners, then the export of domestic goods will rise. The foreigners will purchase more of domestic goods, and as a result, the export of domestic goods will rise. Okay, fine. So we can draw a conclusion that whenever there is depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency, it will lead to rise in export of domestic goods. Okay, leads to rise in export of domestic goods. Now the same relation can be obtained in another way in terms of foreign currency. When there is depreciation of domestic currency, it means there will be appreciation of foreign currency or revaluation of foreign currency. Whenever there is appreciation of foreign currency, the value of foreign currency will rise. It means that the domestic goods will become relatively cheaper for the foreigners, and when it becomes relatively cheaper for the foreigners, it means that the export of domestic goods will rise. Okay, appreciation of foreign currency means the value of foreign currency will rise, and when the value of foreign currency will rise, the foreigners will feel that the price of Indian goods, that is the domestic goods, has now become relatively cheaper, so they will buy more of Indian goods, that is more of domestic goods. So as a result, what happens? The export of domestic goods, that is export of Indian goods from India's perspective, will rise. Okay, we can draw a conclusion from this also that whenever there is appreciation or revaluation of foreign currency, then obviously it will lead to rise in the export of domestic goods. Okay, appreciation of foreign currency, there will be rise in export of domestic goods. Okay, now in the similar way, we can again find the relation between appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency with that of export of domestic goods. In first case, we have discussed about the relation between depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency and export of domestic goods. Here we are going to discuss about appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency and export of domestic goods. Okay, now we know that whenever there is appreciation or revaluation, the value of domestic currency will increase against the foreign currency. Here also we will take an example, similar example. Let's say we'll just alter the example which we have taken earlier. In initial situation, let's say the exchange rate is such that $1 is equal to rupee 100. Okay, here also dollar is foreign currency, rupee is in domestic currency, and for each foreign currency 100 unit of domestic currency is being exchanged. Further, let's assume that US citizen again has $100 with him. If we convert it to rupee, it will become rupee 10,000. India is exporting tea, India is selling tea to this US citizen, and the value of tea is again 500 rupees per kg, so that when this US citizen entirely spends his 10,000 rupees to purchase tea, then he will be able to purchase 20 kilograms of tea. Thus, the total quantity of tea purchased by US citizen is 20 kg of tea. Now, after appreciation or revaluation, the exchange rate will increase in such a way that $1 is equal to rupee 50. Okay, the exchange rate now has just halved. Okay, earlier it was 100 rupee per dollar, now it is 50 rupee per dollar. Just for the simplification, again I am telling this, just for the simplification we are taking this example. We can take any example, but this example is very easy to understand. So here $1 is equal to rupee 50. Now the value of Indian currency has increased. Earlier we had to give rupee 100 for $1. Now we are giving only rupee 50 for $1. So our currency's value, India's currency's value has increased. Okay, US citizen has same $100. Now if we convert it to rupee, then it just becomes rupee 5,000. Earlier it was 10,000. Now it has become rupee 5,000. Okay, with this 5,000 rupees entirely spending on tea being sold by India at rupee 500 per kilogram, the amount of tea purchased by the US citizen will be 10 kilogram, that is 5,000 divided by 500. Okay, thus the tea purchased by US citizen will be 10 kg of tea. Okay, when the value of Indian currency is appreciating, or when the value of domestic currency is appreciating. Okay, now as we have already discussed in our previous slides that whenever there is depreciation of domestic currency, it simultaneously means that there is appreciation of foreign currency. In the similar way, when there is appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency, then it simultaneously means that there is depreciation or devaluation of foreign currency. Okay, so these two occurs simultaneously. Okay, when there is appreciation of domestic currency, then it is for sure that there has been depreciation of foreign currency. When there has been revaluation of domestic currency, it certainly means that there has been devaluation of foreign currency. Okay, now let us see how the appreciation of domestic currency is affecting the export of domestic goods. From here we can draw a conclusion that whenever there is appreciation of domestic currency or whenever there is revaluation of domestic currency, then certainly we have seen that the value of goods, or in other sense the amount of goods being exported, domestic goods being exported, has reduced from 20 to 10 kg. Okay, so it means that whenever there is appreciation, then appreciation of domestic goods, then there will be fall in the export of domestic goods. So whenever there is appreciation of domestic currency, it means that the value of domestic currency will rise, increase, and whenever the value of domestic currency rises, okay, it means that the domestic goods becomes relatively expensive for the foreigners. Okay, as we have seen in the slide that the price was 500 per kg. Okay, and since initially before appreciation the exchange rate was $1 per 100 rupees, so the price was only $5 per kilogram, and when the Indian currency has appreciated to rupee 50 per dollar, then the price of tea become 10 rupees per dollar, $10 per kilogram. So what happened here, the price has grown relatively, the goods has become, the tea has become relatively expensive, so as a result foreigners will purchase less of tea from India. So as a result the export of domestic goods will fall. Okay, so we can conclude from here that whenever there is appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency, then it will lead to decrease in export of domestic goods. Okay, it will lead to decrease in export of domestic goods. Fine. So whenever there is appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency, it will lead to fall in export of domestic goods. Now whenever there is appreciation of domestic currency, it does mean that there is depreciation of foreign currency. It occurs simultaneously. So, or we can say that whenever there is revaluation of domestic currency, then there will be devaluation of foreign currency. So whenever there is depreciation of foreign currency, obviously the value of foreign currency will fall. And when the value of foreign currency falls, domestic goods for the foreigners becomes relatively expensive. Okay, so domestic goods becomes relatively expensive because now they have to pay more in terms of their currency to purchase the Indian product, that is domestic goods. So as a result, Indian goods becomes relatively expensive to them, as we have already discussed in the example of with the good tea. Now here, whenever there is domestic goods becomes relatively expensive, foreigners will purchase less of that good. So as a result, export of domestic goods for India will decrease. Okay, as a result, export of India will decrease, export of tea will decrease. Now here, depreciation or devaluation of foreign currency is leading towards fall or decrease in export of domestic goods. Till now, we have discussed about the impact of appreciation or depreciation of domestic currency on the export of domestic goods. Now we will discuss about the impact of depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency on the import of foreign goods. Now how will it impact the import of foreign goods to India? Okay, if Indians are importing some foreign goods from USA, then how is it going to impact if the value of rupee decreases in terms of US dollar? Okay, depreciation, the definition of depreciation we all know by now, that whenever there is depreciation, there will be fall in the value of domestic currency in terms of foreign currency. Here also we will take an example. Let's say initially, okay, same rate, that is $1 per rupee 50 is there, and Indian citizen, now we will change the example here, an Indian citizen has rupee 2000 and Indian has rupee 2000 with him, so that when we convert it to dollar, when converted to dollar, it becomes dollar 40. Okay, that is 2000 divided by 50, it will give you $40. Okay, now let's say India is exporting, or Indians are importing, Indian is importing jeans pant from USA, and the rate of jeans pant is $5 per pair. That is, one jeans pant costs rupee $5 for the Indians, okay, in order to import it. Now if that particular Indian spends in his entire money, that is $40 in purchasing jeans pant from USA, okay, then what happens here is that he can purchase 8 pairs of jeans, that is 40 divided by the price 5. So he can purchase 8 pairs of jeans. Okay, thus the Indian is purchasing, an Indian can purchase or buy 8 pairs of jeans from USA at this exchange rate, okay, and at this price level. Now let's say the value of Indian currency has depreciated. After depreciation or devaluation, Indian currency has depreciated now. So what happens here is the exchange rate changes to $1 equals to rupee 100. The same example which we have been taking. So I'll not explain this in details now because we have already discussed about this. Indian has 2000 rupees with him. When converted to dollar now, since $1 is 100 rupees, so it simply becomes $20. If we divide 2000 by 100, then we'll get this $20. Okay, here it was $40, now it has become $20, just half of it, because the exchange rate has increased by double. Okay, now with this $20, how many pairs of jeans can this particular Indian purchase? If we divide 20 by 5, then we will get the quantity of jeans that this particular Indian can purchase. Okay, so the quantity of jeans pant that he can purchase is just 4 pairs of jeans. Okay, 4 pairs of jeans he can purchase. Fine. Now, thus this Indian can purchase 4 pairs of jeans. So here if we see, earlier he could have purchased 8 pairs, now he can purchase 4 pairs. It means that whenever there is depreciation or devaluation, the import, earlier he was importing 8 pairs of jeans, now he is importing 4 pairs of jeans. So it means that whenever there is depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency, then the import of foreign currency, okay, then the import of foreign currency will decrease, okay, then the import of foreign currency will decrease. Fine. Now this depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency, okay, this depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency simultaneously means appreciation or revaluation of foreign currency. We have been saying this from the first slide itself. So whenever there is depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency, it means that there is appreciation or revaluation of foreign currency. Okay, so in this case also we see that the import of foreign goods will fall in India. Why it is so? It is so because earlier with this rate $1 equals to rupee 50, Indians were to pay 5 into 5 250 rupees for 1 pair of jeans. Now with this exchange rate, Indians will have to pay 500 rupees for 1 pair of jeans. So obviously jeans pant has now become relatively expensive for the Indians to purchase. So as a result, they will purchase less of jeans from USA than it was earlier. Okay, let us summarize this. We can summarize this as follows. Whenever there is depreciation of domestic currency, it means that value of domestic currency reduces. Whenever the value of domestic currency reduces, it means that the foreign goods will now become relatively expensive for the Indian citizens. So as a result, the import of foreign goods will fall. We can conclude it as follows. Whenever there is depreciation or devaluation of domestic currency, then obviously it will lead to fall in import of foreign goods. Okay. On the other hand, when there is depreciation of domestic currency, it certainly means it is appreciation of foreign currency or revaluation of foreign currency. So whenever there is appreciation of foreign currency, value of foreign currency rises. Whenever there is rise in the value of foreign currency, the foreign goods becomes relatively expensive for Indians, and when it becomes relatively expensive, obviously Indians will purchase less. So when they will purchase less, it means that the import of foreign goods will fall. Okay, so as a result, we can conclude that whenever there is appreciation or revaluation of foreign currency, then it will lead to decrease in import of foreign goods. Okay, it will lead to decrease in import of foreign goods. So whenever there is depreciation of domestic currency or appreciation of foreign currency, then there will be fall or decrease in the import of foreign goods. Okay, now we will try to find out the impact of appreciation of domestic currency. Till now we were discussing about depreciation of domestic currency and its relation with import of foreign goods. Now we will discuss about appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency and import of foreign goods. Okay, obviously when there is appreciation, there will be rise in the value of domestic currency in terms of foreign currency. Here also we will take an example. Let's say initially exchange rate is $1 equals to rupee 100. Okay, $1 equals to rupee 100. Indian has rupee 2000 as earlier example. If we convert this to dollar, it becomes $20. Okay, that is 2000 divided by 100, we will get $20. So this Indian has $20 with him. Okay, Indian is importing jeans pant from USA and the price of jeans is $5 per pair as it was in earlier example. Okay, now with this $20 entirely spent on purchasing jeans, this Indian can purchase 4 pairs of jeans. Okay, thus the import by an Indian is 4 pairs of jeans. Okay, he is purchasing 4 pair of jeans from USA. That means he is importing 4 pairs of jeans. Okay, now after appreciation of domestic currency or revaluation of domestic currency, what happens? The exchange rate becomes $1 equals to rupee 50. $1 is equivalent to rupee 50 rupees. Indian has 2000 rupees with him. If we convert it to dollar, then he will be having $40 with him. Okay, Indian has $40 with him, and since the price of jeans is $5 per pair, the price of jeans will not change, $5 per pair. He can purchase 8 pairs of jeans, because for him now this jeans has become relatively cheaper. Why it is so? Because earlier for 500 rupees he was getting 1 pair of jeans. Now he can purchase the same jeans with 250 rupees, because the exchange rate has now appreciated for Indian rupees. Okay, so Indian rupees has improved, so as a result less unit of Indian rupees is to be given for each dollar. As a result, the value of jeans pant or the price of jeans pant has become relatively cheaper, even though the price has not reduced, but it has become relatively cheaper for the Indian citizen. Okay, so he will be able to purchase 8 pairs of jeans. So an Indian can buy 8 pairs of jeans from USA. So this 8 pairs of jeans is the import for the Indian. Okay, for Indian it is import of foreign goods. Okay, this same interpretation can be done for the depreciation or devaluation of foreign currency, because appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency simply means depreciation or devaluation of foreign currency. Okay, it has the same meaning. Okay, here the value of foreign currency is reducing in terms of domestic currency. Here the value of domestic currency is rising in terms of foreign currency. So it will lead to the same result. Let us conclude it. Whenever there is appreciation of domestic currency, value of domestic currency rises. When the value of domestic currency rises, foreign goods becomes relatively cheaper for the domestic citizen, for the Indian citizen. So as a result, they will purchase more of foreign goods, that is, they will import more of foreign goods. So import of foreign goods rises. Okay, so we can conclude that whenever there is appreciation of domestic currency or revaluation of domestic currency, then it will lead to increase in import of foreign goods. Okay, so whenever there is appreciation or revaluation of domestic currency, then it will lead to increase in import of foreign goods. Okay, on the other hand, when there is appreciation of domestic currency, there will be depreciation of foreign currency. Okay, foreign currency will depreciate. So whenever there is depreciation of foreign currency, it means that the value of foreign currency has decreased, and when the value of foreign currency decreases, foreign goods becomes relatively cheaper for Indian citizens. So Indians will purchase more of foreign goods, that is, they will import more of foreign goods. Okay, so we can conclude this as whenever there is depreciation or devaluation of foreign currency, whenever there is depreciation or devaluation of foreign currency, it will lead to increase in import of foreign goods. Okay, why it is so? It is so because the foreign goods now becomes relatively cheaper for the Indian citizen. Okay, so here we have taken 4 cases. First was depreciation of domestic currency and export of domestic currency, domestic goods, Okay, second was appreciation of domestic currency and export of domestic goods. Third was depreciation of domestic currency and import of foreign goods. Fourth was appreciation of domestic currency and import of foreign goods. Whenever there is depreciation of domestic currency, the export of domestic goods will rise. Okay, whenever there is appreciation of domestic currency, the export of domestic goods will fall. Whenever there is depreciation of domestic goods, then the import of foreign goods will fall. And whenever there is appreciation of domestic goods, domestic currency, whenever there is appreciation of domestic currency, then the import of foreign goods will rise. Okay, so this was the 4 conclusion that we draw, and if we are to draw the conclusion in terms of foreign currency, we have also done that. Okay, now let us see some of the differences between devaluation and depreciation. As we all know, devaluation takes place in the fixed exchange rate system. Okay, and in the fixed exchange rate system, the exchange rate is determined by monetary authority or the government. Okay, on the other hand, depreciation is the decrease in the value of domestic currency in the flexible exchange rate system, where the exchange rate is determined by the market forces of demand and supply. Okay, devaluation occurs due to changes done by government or monetary authority. Devaluation occurs because of the changes done by monetary authority or the government. Depreciation occurs because of changes in the market forces of demand and supply of foreign exchange. Okay, devaluation takes place under fixed exchange rate system and depreciation takes place under flexible exchange rate system. Okay, in the similar way, we can see the difference between revaluation and appreciation. Revaluation means increase in the value of domestic currency in terms of foreign currency. Okay, but it is done by the monetary authority or the government. And appreciation means increase in the value of domestic currency in terms of foreign currency, but this is done by the market forces of demand and supply of foreign exchange in the flexible exchange rate system. Revaluation is in the fixed exchange rate system. Whenever there is revaluation, revaluation occurs due to the changes done by government or the monetary authority. Appreciation takes place because of the changes occurring in the demand and supply of foreign exchange. Okay, revaluation on the other hand occurs in the fixed exchange rate system. Appreciation occurs in the flexible exchange rate system. Now we will discuss the difference between depreciation and appreciation. Depreciation means decrease in the value of domestic currency against foreign currency in the flexible exchange rate system. Appreciation means it refers to the increase in the value of domestic currency, against foreign currency in the flexible exchange rate system. Okay, it makes domestic goods, depreciation makes domestic goods relatively cheaper for the foreigners. Appreciation makes domestic goods relatively expensive for the foreigners. Okay, depreciation makes foreign goods relatively cheaper for the domestic citizen, that is Indian citizen. Appreciation makes foreign goods relatively expensive for the domestic citizen. Okay, it leads to increase in exports of domestic goods, as we have already seen in the relation between depreciation and export of domestic goods. Depreciation leads to increase in exports of domestic goods to the foreigners. Appreciation leads to decrease in exports of foreign goods to the foreigners. Okay, on the other hand, depreciation leads to decrease in imports of foreign goods. Okay, it leads to decrease in imports of foreign goods. Appreciation leads to increase in imports of foreign goods. Okay, appreciation leads to increase in imports of foreign goods. Depreciation leads to decrease in imports of foreign goods. Depreciation means when earlier the exchange rate is rupee 60, $1 per $1 rupee 60 is spent, and after depreciation the rupee spent will increase, that is 60. It was earlier 60 and now it becomes 65, or it can become any value more than rupee 60. Okay, so $1 can take the value of rupee 60.2, rupee 60.5, rupee 61, 62, rupee 70, anything just above rupee 60. Okay, it has to be greater than rupee 60. On the other hand, whenever there is appreciation, initially when $1 is rupee 60, then after appreciation it becomes less than 60, that is $1 equals to rupee 55, 56, 57, it can be rupee 59.9, but it will never be 60. Okay, so when there is appreciation, we will give less of Indian rupees against each dollar. Okay, this is the difference between depreciation and appreciation. Further, we can in the similar way differentiate between devaluation and revaluation. Almost all things will remain same here, just the definition will change. In definition, devaluation is decrease in the value of domestic currency against foreign currency in the fixed exchange rate system. Revaluation is the increase in the value of domestic currency, okay, in the fixed exchange rate system. Okay, now whenever there is devaluation, again the same difference as it was in case of depreciation and appreciation. Whenever there is devaluation, domestic goods becomes relatively cheaper, foreign goods becomes relatively expensive. Here, after revaluation, domestic goods becomes relatively expensive and foreign goods becomes relatively cheaper. Here, export of domestic goods will rise, export of domestic goods will fall in case of revaluation. In case of devaluation, import of foreign goods will decrease, and here in this case of revaluation, import of foreign goods will increase. And again, in case of devaluation, when initially it is $1 equals to rupee 60, after devaluation it becomes more than rupee 60, that is here I have taken $1 equals to rupee 65. In case of revaluation, if the initial exchange rate is $1 equals to rupee 60, it will be less than rupee 60. Here I have taken $1 equals to rupee 55 as an example. Okay, so the difference is same as it was in case of depreciation and appreciation. In case of devaluation and revaluation also, all the differences are same, just the definition. First difference is different because of the definitions. Okay, in definition we will write fixed exchange rate system here. In that case we have written flexible exchange rate system. Okay, I hope that you have understood whatever we have discussed today. Okay, I will come again with the next lecture, that will be the last part of foreign exchange rate. So for today I will take leave. Okay, hope you have understood whatever we have discussed today. Okay, if you repetitively watch the video again and again, you will come to understand what has been explained. So I'll just urge you to watch the video again and again, once, not only once, but if you watch it twice or thrice, then you will easily understand whatever is taught in today's video. Okay, thank you very much for patiently watching my video. I'll come again with the third part of foreign exchange rate, and it will be the last part of foreign exchange rate. Till then, stay safe, stay at home, keep studying. Have a good day ahead. Thank you very much.